Most days, I go through my life and go about my business feeling pretty safe, pretty secure. I feel like the wall between my family and terrible danger is a stone castle wall surrounded by a moat. I feel like my love for my children is enough, and we should be pretty safe. But every once in a while, the earth shifts on its axis, and I see that wall for what it really is, which is a gossamer thin veil. And when this happens, I sense danger nearby, lurking behind me, breathing down my neck, or curled up beside me in bed, reaching a claw over my shoulder to pull at a loose thread on that veil and unravel my entire world. The first time this happened was the summer Emily was 14. We were in Westport Point. My oldest childhood friend is a girl named Sharon. She is like a sister to me in the sense that I have no recollection of a life that did not involve her. We grew up together in Buffalo. We shared childhood experiences and adventures, our adolescence. We shared everything but our clothes because she was as tall and thin as I was short and round. And then after high school, she went to college in New York and I went to college in Binghamton. And when I was done in Binghamton and I got to New York, she moved to Seattle, which just screwed everything up. And for many years, it was very hard to really see each other very much. But then she got together with Steve, this guy whose family had kind of old money and a summer home in this little town in Massachusetts, not on the Cape, on the shoreline, called Westport Point. And every summer, I was invited. They would come east for 2 weeks, and I would be invited for 2 precious nights with whatever child was not at camp that summer. And I looked forward to this year after year. And the year Emily was 14, she didn't go to camp, and we were going to Westport. And the great part was not only were we going, but she was bringing a friend. She was bringing this girl, Sierra. And this was a small miracle. Friendships were very difficult for Emily at that time in her life. And it meant that I was kind of her best friend. You know, I did a whole lot of like watching Twilight with her and taking her out for lunch and all sorts of things because I had to be her companion. But she was bringing Sierra on this trip, which meant that load was off, and I was really happy. We get to Westport Point, and it's great. Westport Point is this little one-street town that ends in a wharf, and it's surrounded by the town is on both sides with these historic old houses, clapboard shingles and signs that tell you who was the original owner, you know, and what year it was built. And a visit to Westport is really, really like a trip back in time. That summer, there was no cable in the house yet, there was no Wi-Fi in the house yet, and there was no cell service. And the kids would play with whoever was around that weekend, like we used to when I was little. And Emily and Sierra very quickly hooked up with this girl down the street named Caitlin. And they were all so great together that first day that Emily and Sierra marched down the street after dinner with their inflatable mattresses on their heads to go sleep at Caitlin's house. But by the time they got home in the morning, I was aware already that the wheels were kind of coming off this particular wagon. Caitlin and Sierra both did gymnastics, and they had that in common, and Emily couldn't even do a cartwheel. And Emily now found herself trying to navigate this challenging teenage triangle, which means, of course, Emily just opts right out and is right back at my side. And this is complicated for me by the fact that Sharon and Steve, their kids are much younger than mine. I have teenagers with me. They have like an 8-year-old and a 2-year-old toddler. And everything revolves around this 2-year-old's schedule. When is the 2-year-old going to eat? When is the 2-year-old going to nap? What does Nina want to play with? What does Nina want to do? I didn't give a shit who got the green plate when my kids were 2 years old. But I'm now on the other side of this. And Sharon is understandably distracted. So I've got like more Emily than I want and less Sharon than I want. And it's the end of day number 2 and we're on the beach. The lifeguards have gone for the day. And it is 5 o'clock, not 5:01, not 5:10. It is 5 o'clock and time for Nina to go home and have her dinner. And the big girls don't want to leave. And I say, all right, I'll stay with the big girls for 1 more hour. And you take the little ones home, get them fed, get them bathed, and we'll meet you there in time for grown-up dinner. And Sharon leaves with her posse, and I'm left on the beach with my posse. And Caitlin and Sierra start turning back handsprings in the sand. And they're hanging out with each other. And Emily looks at me and goes, will you go swimming with me? I am not an ocean swimmer. There is seaweed in that ocean, and God knows what else, and it is cold, and it is unpleasant, and I'm not even, like, swimming in the pool is only okay with me. I'm like an old lady who gets in the pool and goes like this and says, I'm done. So Emily wants to go swimming in the ocean, and I go like, no, I don't really want to. You can go by yourself. Just don't go where you can't stand. And she says, okay, no problem. And I sit down in my chair and I pick up my People magazine and I put in my headphones. Because really, all I want is a break for 5 goddamn minutes where nobody wants anything from me. And I sit in my chair and I read my People magazine and I listen to my music. And a couple of minutes later, I look up and Emily is waving at me. And I still don't want to go swimming in the ocean, so I wave back, and I go back to my magazine. And a minute or 2 later, I look up, and Emily's waving with 2 hands. And I think, like, this might be bad. And I go to the edge of the water, and she's yelling something that I can't hear. And now, like, a small crowd of adults has gathered around me. And I'm not really sure what I'm going to do, because not only do I not like the seaweed and not like the cold water, I'm not really such a strong swimmer. Like, I could pluck you out of a pool if I had to, but I don't think I could really pluck anybody out of the ocean. And while I'm standing there frozen for just a second, a man kicks off his sandals and he goes out. And she's not that far out and she's not in that much trouble, but he gets her and he brings her into shore and she comes in and she's standing, and I wrap my daughter in my arms and in a towel, and the other 2 girls stop turning back handsprings and they come and get her, and the 3 girls make their way down the beach, and it's over. And that night, everybody sleeps where they belong. Caitlin sleeps in her own house, and Emily and Sierra sleep in my house. And that night, I go to say goodnight to the girls, and I walk in, and I see my daughter, and my heart is so full, and I kiss my kid goodnight, and I make a wish for my children, for their health, for their safety, for their very lives, because I know something that I hadn't known when I woke up that morning. I know that we parents, we lie to ourselves. And when something terrible happens in the house next door, if we decide it was something terrible that maybe could have been avoided, we tell ourselves that we're better than that those parents made a mistake that we would never make. We love our children too much to ever make that mistake. But what I know now is that we all love our kids and we all make mistakes. We all just want that 5-minute break. And I'm not better than any other mother. I'm just lucky. Thank you.